Silence with Minister Tia on Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. We are here with you every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. Love Bay family, we are rising out of the ashes together. Our topic on tonight is family progress. We have with us our co-host Jennifer Peterkin, and our guest on this evening is Evangelist Celestine Marks and her son, Minister Arthur Marks. Um, Listeners, if you have any questions or comments for our guest or our co-host, you can email us at sufferinginsilencedv@gmail.com. If you have any resources that you would like to share with us on a local or a national level from your country, your community, any local organizations or your faith communities, you can also email us at sufferinginsilencedv@gmail.com. With that, Jen, if you would introduce yourself or just say hello to our listeners and viewers tonight.
Yes, hello everyone. Great to be back again on Love Bay and on Suffering in Silence. It's always an honor to be here. Yeah.
You have to tell us more, a little bit more, the human experience.
You said just say hi. Okay.
Okay, so
all
my
right.
hi,
All right,
like
I'm sorry.
more information. Tell us about the human experience and where we can.
I'm sorry, Tia. This isn't my first time. I should have known better. So that's on me. But yes, so I am a regular co-host on Suffering in Silence. I know that doesn't seem likely since I just messed up the introduction, but I have been on the show before. And I am connected with Tia because I, along with her, have my own experience with domestic violence, became an advocate out of that experience. And also out of that experience is a project that I'm currently championing called The Human Experience. It is a podcast. I actually just launched in January, at the end of January. So we are live and we have about 20 episodes out so far. So would love for you to hop over and check that out. It's basically about how our experiences shape who we are and how we see the world. So you can find me on Instagram at thehxpod or online at thehxpod.com.
Thank you so much, Jen. And Evangelist Marks, if you would greet our listeners again on this evening.
Hi.
You're regular now, so.
Okay, this is my second time participating in this, and I guess I'm here because of the experience that I dealt with domestic violence, and and hopefully to be able to let others know how me and my family been through it and how we came out of it.
Thank you.
Here's my funny son.
Minister Marks, if you would introduce yourself. Well, not introduce because you're a regular too. You would just, greet our listeners on tonight, listeners and viewers.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry for my tardiness. As you can see, I'm just getting off work. But again, I am Minister Arthur Marks, Jr. I am the debonair dapper son of Evangelist Celestine Marks. Hello, Miss Peterkin and Miss Tia May. It's good to see all of you. Again, hello. I'm here to tell you how much I love my mother. That's what I'm here to do tonight.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh my goodness. I can't wait. I just cannot wait for this evening to start. Listeners, we want to share some resources with you as usual. First, we have Pastor Darius Daniels, a pastor of Change Church. He has several locations in the United States. One is he's in Florida. He's in, I believe it's Atlanta, Georgia, and then he's also in New Jersey. His website is DariusDaniels.com, DHARIUS. His YouTube channel is Darius Daniels TV. Some resources that we have Kenya, Africa, Coalition on Violence Against Women. Their website is And then we have Malawi, Africa, Center for Alternatives for Victimized Women and Children. Their website is cavwoc.org. Their phone number is 265-052-39876. And their email address is cavwoc@gmail.com. And then we have Mauritius, Africa, SOS Women. Their website is sosfemnet.intnet.mu. So with that, listeners, on tonight, we go into our topic, which is family progress. So for listeners who don't know your story, I would ask Evangelist Marks, if you could start us off and please tell us your relationship to each other and just a bit of your story for those who don't know your background as we go into the topic of family progress.
So you want me to start from from the beginning?
No, just a quick overview,
Okay. I mean, I can see that the progress of what me and my children went through. I can see the progress within my sons, but I don't see it within my daughters. I kind of still see them holding on to not the trauma, but they kind of are blindsided about the whole issue of what happened. The difference that I see in my sons, they kind of moved on away from it, and I can see that they don't put their families through what they've been through. And with us, all of us as a family, I mean, everybody right now is working on their own, own legacy, their own family legacy. And then I had to think about that this morning when when I kind of moved away from my family and started my own family legacy, and it just made me think about the different transitions that that we went through to be able to get where we are today. So I don't know.
That's absolutely fine. So I'm sorry. I think I was thinking of more than one question at a time.
Well,
so
can I help her? Can I help her a little bit, Minister?
Yes.
So I don't know. I don't want to tell my mother's age, but I'm 48 years old. So I'm going to tell
my
you.
Age.
My mother is 68 years old. So from as early as I can remember, my mother and father, though they were married, my mother was in a very abusive, physically and verbally, mentally abusive relationship growing up with my dad. My father committed suicide when I was 15 years old. So I believe my mother was 35 at the time. So she became a widow at a very young age, and she had to take care of all five of us, by herself. There was plenty of times I saw my mom get knocked down, knocked out, teeth knocked out her mouth. And I guess when I was 15, I got tired of it. I couldn't take it no more. I couldn't take the abuse. I couldn't watch her cry. I couldn't watch my brothers and sisters cry no more. So a week before my father passed, I had made up in my mind, which I told my little brother, that I was going to take his gun and I was going to shoot him myself, because I didn't want none of us to keep, have to go through that. Lo and behold, a week later, he decided to take his own life. But that's the gist of, my first 15 years of life was watching my mother be physically, mentally abused by our father. Now, we all had the same, our father, and not only did he do it to her, he did it to us also. I have 3 brothers and 2 sisters. I also watched my mom bury one of our little brothers. He was a stillborn. How old was he? 9 months?
He wasn't even 9 months. He was almost 8 months.
8 months. And that was traumatic for our family at that particular time. There was times my mom, she wanted to leave. She got up, she decided to leave, but people talked to her back into returning because she thought she was, trying to do the best thing for her kids.
Mhm.
But as I always tell my mom, June 9th, Minister May, that was the worst day of my life, but it was also the best day of my life because we didn't have to deal with that trauma and that one person putting us through. But like I said, I saw my mom get knocked down, but every time she got knocked down, she got right back up and she kept fighting. So are we making progress? Absolutely. We made tons of progress because for years I literally hated my mother because naturally as human beings, we have to put the blame on somebody, correct? We have to. And I literally hated my mother because I had to put the blame on somebody. But until I had men in my life and I had a relationship with God, that's when everything changed. And now I appreciate my mom, and I don't even have those same feelings I have. Though we don't agree on everything, but my mother has been an absolute blessing to our family, to my wife. Some of you may know my wife has epilepsy. My mom is always there. She's always there to help our children. And she's been, for me, she's been an absolute blessing probably the last 20 years of my life. Yeah.
Well, first, I want to acknowledge that I didn't realize that the date was so close to that anniversary. I had no idea. I would have been more sensitive in scheduling this.
No.
It's fine. Believe me, it doesn't even affect us like it used to.
Right.
Believe me when I tell you, I didn't even think about it.
Me neither.
I didn't even think about it last week. I had to actually got off the train and I saw June 9th, and that's when I thought about it. And the Lord literally spoke to me and said, "Time heals all wounds."
Wow.
Right. And I didn't think about it. I didn't think about it until I saw it on social media where my daughter wrote something in reference to, do y'all know what today is? And it's right now she's going through her grieving process because of her, losing her husband.
Yes.
And I don't, to me, like he mentioned about my youngest son dying at birth, and that week my husband he always accused me of doing things behind his back, which was never true. And the week that my son died, because I almost lost him twice, my husband said, well, he hoped the baby died. Well, Christian me and Christian almost died together. But for some reason, the doctor came in the room and the doctor asked, how was I feeling? And I told him that I felt real weak, but I was going in and out of it. So when they examined me, that's when they told me that they had to do an emergency C-section. So I went through that. And then when I woke up from the C-section, that's when they told me that he was already gone. And, he was just gone. But then when I think about Christian's death, because he died August the 30th, I think it was August the 30th, 1986. I look at that as a celebration because he was a blessing to me, for me to open up my eyes that me and my kids don't have to take this anymore. And then that's when I, decided to, just take that chance and make some moves to bring us out of the house, that he had us kind of like sealed in, but like I said, when I met him, he was not like that. This was somebody that I liked since 4th grade. And I didn't get to meet him until I was 17, but I came from a strict family. And and I had a good relationship with my dad, an awesome relationship with my dad, more than my other brothers and sisters. So I always felt like I didn't need that boyfriend girlfriend relationship with nobody because I had my dad. But lo and behold, the month that I met my husband was the month a week later, my dad died. So that kind of like made me latch on to my husband, and we didn't get a chance to really get to know each other. When he asked me to marry him, it was like a week later, and I was, how can I marry somebody that I don't know? So we stayed together, and the first time the abuse started, I was, because I waited for my 18th birthday, and lo and behold, that's what happened. I had to be like 3 months pregnant with my oldest daughter, and that's when the abuse started. So and then after that, it didn't happen anymore until I didn't know I was pregnant with my second child, and that's Rocky. And my mom came in the house, and we were arguing, and she saw that he hit me in my chest. And all my mom told him that if you ever, she called him a word, but she said, if you ever put your hands on her again, I will kill you. But I was still like young. I was 18 and 19 years old when he started doing this. And then I kept saying, I have children. I can't walk away from this because I have children. And I know my mom walked away, and I knew what my mom went through by walking away from her relationships. She had to struggle, and she was young. She was younger than me, and watching her, I said, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go. So I'm just going to take this chance and hoping that this man would change. But he never changed, even when I decided to move away from home at 21. I had 3 kids then, because my first 3 was right behind each other. And I moved with my in-laws, and the abuse really started getting worse. And and I worked. He didn't work. He was a musician, professional musician. His insecurities kept him from wanting to go out there to play with the well-known bands. He when we moved with his mother, he became more insecure, and I would just go to work and then come back and see things wrong with my kids, and everything. And all I was doing was just trying to keep things, keep our financial needs going. And he would always accuse me of doing something that I never did, but I think I mentioned to you before, um, when I came home from work, I think Rocky was 2 and Arthena she was 3, and I had to take him to the hospital because,
So wait, so let me stop you for a minute, because what we want to do on tonight is really talk about
okay, the progress.
Or now, I don't want to take you back.
Okay.
A place.
Okay.
Where, and I want you to feel what you feel right now. I mean, we're still going through our healing process. We really are. But I want to talk about the where you guys have gotten to. So, Minister Marks, I want to go back to. In a minute, I want to go back to the comment you made about blame. Sure. But first, I wanted to ask you about if you could describe your progress, because I know what I see and I know what I know. Like, I know you. We know each other. Minister Marks and I, we operate together in ministry. This is my brother in Christ. The both of us meeting each other, if we had not opened our mouths and said, this is my story, this is what happened to me, neither one of us would know what we've been through. You would not know. Yeah. So I want to ask you, can you describe your progress and how you got to be there? Because this man stands in the pulpit and delivers the word from God. This man stands and ministers to other people as if everything all his life has been fine, well, and good. Like I lied to you not. You could not know his story unless he opened his mouth and said, "This is what has happened to me." So I want to ask you, you know, how you got to be where you are right now, because I know it's not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I never even thought about it like that, and I never even seen it like that. I guess it was a conscious decision not to keep living that way, and move forward. As I began to be a father myself, I saw some of those traits and the things that my father did to me. I would do it to my two oldest children, and I just, after I had my daughter, I said it has to stop. It has to stop because I didn't want her to experience that side of me or know that side of me or any of that. And I knew I had to change because, my wife, who wasn't my wife at the time, I really honestly cared about her, and I loved her with all my heart. And I didn't want her to leave because of who I used to be. And I knew I had to make some changes. So it took a lot of prayer. It took a lot of one-on-one counseling with some men who could really speak life into me and show me a better way. And just men, loving on me as a father should, in order for that change to happen in my life. But it all started with a conscious decision. I can't continue to live this way and be the man that I desire to be. So that's where it started for me.
Mhm.
So I want to take a moment and just express to our listeners. So, Evangelist Mark, you made a comment about your sons earlier. You said your sons moved on. And I really want to emphasize that moving on is what Minister Marks just said.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That counseling. There are men in his life that mentored him and that spoke to him. He made a conscious decision to not continue on
Mhm.
a legacy that was negatively left for them. So I just want to say, listeners and viewers, moving on does not mean ignoring the situation. Moving
Right.
on does not mean pretending that the abuse didn't happen. It doesn't mean trying to figure it out on your own, shutting yourself up in the ball and just plowing through it. Moving on means getting help. Moving
Right. And see,
on.
and what I was getting at was there were a lot of things that I had moved on from, but there were things that my children didn't. I don't think my children knew certain things that went on. Um, like what my son said. When he made that decision, he didn't know that I knew about that decision because his sister recently told me that my husband said that he was going to do that to him. So he had to, and he also did that to me, also said the same thing to me. So it was like, the same thoughts that my son had, I had also. How are we going to get out of this? But to move on from that, because sometimes we still hold on to that past hurt that happened, but because of the grace of God and other people coming into my life that helped me through a lot of things, I don't think I would be where I am today. Without the strength of my sons, especially Rocky. He don't even know. I think he thinks sometimes I'm just overbearing, but I protect him a lot because of because of what I protect my sons. My youngest son, I don't feel like I'd have to do that because my husband didn't do the things. He just seemed like he tried to make him like him. And with my other two sons, I feel like they're my strength, and that's what keeps me going. Besides the people that I had in my life spiritually that kept me going, so I wouldn't be locked up in the cage of the fear and the hurt and the pain and all of that my husband caused me,
So can I say one thing, Minister May? So I tell my mom all the time that she has to forgive herself for the times that she wasn't there. We're not in that space no more.
Mhm.
We don't live in that time no more. And I know it happened. It happened. I forgave him. I forgave her, and she has to forgive herself
Mhm.
in order for her heart to have peace about the things that he did to us when she wasn't. It wasn't her fault, and I tell her that all the time.
Mhm.
It wasn't her fault. It was him.
Mhm.
That was his issue, you know. But I want her out, and I tell. This is one of our main conversations. You know, I appreciate everything you done for me, everything. But let that when you wasn't there, when he did those things to us, let it go.
Mhm.
Just it's not worth holding on to no more. Because I don't hold on to no more. I don't. I refuse to. And even when I start thinking about it, I think about the good stuff that's going on in my life, the good things that happen in my life, you know, and
Mhm.
all the blessings that I have around me now. That helps me move forward, you know.
Yeah. So, well, that leads into the point I wanted to go back to that you made about blame, and then
Mhm.
this, Jen, I'll go to
Sure.
you for a question or comment. But I wanted to ask you about that blame because when as children,
Sure.
when we see fault
Mhm.
in our parents through the eyes of children, it is just so different. But there's a point that when you grow up a little bit more, you
Mhm.
know, to become an adult, your child's eyes change and you can see
Sure.
things
Sure.
differently, and like specifically in my case, because I think about this
Mhm.
a lot because my father was not in my life when I was born. But I didn't know it until my family told me. The man who
Mhm.
I thought was my father, they told me when I was 7 years old that he was not my father. And it would have been better
Lord.
had they not told me at all. Because
Mhm.
he completely accepted me in his life. His family accepted me. I was treated no different. I had no clue that this man was not my biological father. But I remember the day, my mother told me that he wasn't my father. And then a couple days after that, my grandmother reiterated the same thing. Um, the moment they told me this, my image of him was this man left me. He didn't care about me. I would fantasize and daydream about him, like coming and swooping in,
Mhm.
things like that. All that stuff started. But I always had this image of he just picked up and left me. When I got older, I was told a bit more of the story. When I was born, my father was 16 years old. As a matter of fact, he had just turned 16. So when I was conceived, he was 15. That information was left out. So when I had that, I could begin to understand a little more. He was a child. He
Mhm.
was a child in a room with adults, and decisions were being made that he had no control over.
Sure.
And
Sure.
so I spent my life blaming him. And I would say there are things that I went through. He could have been there. He could have prevented it. He could have
Mhm.
stopped it. Um, but I never knew he was actually a child himself. I didn't
Lord.
know that. And so when I had that realization, I had to change a bit.
Sure. Sure.
I
Sure.
couldn't keep blaming him. He had no control over. So,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
really changed my attitude towards him. Now, I was still upset that he wasn't there because, and I'm glad that I had the
Mhm.
time and space to have conversations with him before he passed away. Now, I did tell him at some point you became an
Mhm.
adult and you didn't know you had a child out there, and you didn't comfort me. So I was
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
hurt about that. But to finally have that piece of information, it made more sense to me. He was 15 years
Yeah.
old
Yeah.
when I was conceived, and so now I'm able to look back on the situation and forgive him in a different way. And
Sure.
actually, thinking of it that way, I really should have never blamed him the way that I blamed him.
Mhm. Sure.
He had no control. So I think my question is I can see and hear that you've come into an awesome place of being able to see and recognize and forgive. But when did that moment happen for you?
I believe a lot of things changed when my oldest daughter was born. I'm gonna be honest with you. A lot of things changed within me when my oldest daughter was born. Um, it like I said, and it was also new information because me and my mother and myself, we had new conversations. It wasn't arguing and bickering. It wasn't that anymore. It was more, let's sit down, let me hear your side of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw it, but I kind of put it to the side because I had to blame somebody. And when I sat down
Mm-hmm.
and heard her side of the story, got new information, it kind of brought me into a different mindset, and a new attitude towards her. Like no matter what, whether whatever my mom and I struggled with when I was younger, I was always going to take care of my mom. That was my promise to God. Even after my dad died, like, I'm going to take care of my mom. I'm going to be, when my mom was in the hospital, I was right there. Whatever happened to my mom, whether we was arguing, we wasn't talking, I was there because that was my promise to God, that I was going to take care of my mother. But like I said, it was new information and new conversations that my mother and I had that helped, lift that burden of placing blame on her for something that she didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I took the blame for a long time. For a long time, I took the blame. And sometimes through my daughters, I still feel like I'm taking the blame for him not being here. But then when I come to reality, because just watching what my daughter write on social media and then having my other daughter here, they kind of like, I kind of like feel like they blame me for how they turned out in their relationships, because the relationships that they got into are not good. But those are the things that I tried to keep them away from growing up, with all of my kids. Not so that they wouldn't have to go through what I went through, but sometimes my daughters can bring that pain back to in my path, in my pathway by some of the things that they say, you know. And they don't say it to me, they say it to other people, and then it's said to me. Or I can see from my daughter's writing, like I said, on social media, and some of the things I can read between the lines of the reason why she's where she is because her dad is not here and stuff like that. And then I'll come out and say, well, if he was here, where would we be? Where would we be? Really, where would Rocky be? Where would Tony be? If he was still here, where would Kiki be? If he was still here. So I can see that sometimes when I try to move forward, they'll bring me steps back. But then with my sons, it's completely different.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different type of relationship that I have with my sons, because they don't know how much I need them. They don't know that. I don't think they do know it. How much I do rely, not financially, but the strength sometimes that I don't have, I need it from my sons. And I don't think they know that I need to hear from them every day. I mean, I pray and I talk to God and all of that, but with my sons, I just need to, if I don't hear from them, I'll think something is wrong, something happened. And that's because of the relationship that I feel with them, that their strength holds me up sometimes. And I think that was a part of my husband's jealousy because of my relationship with my children. He didn't like the closeness that I had, and he tried to separate that, that relate. He would always find things wrong when I'm close to my kids, and everything. But I never let him stand in the way of the relationship of me and my children. And that's how I still feel today. I just, I'm, not like I said, I'm not an overbearing mom. I just sometimes feel like I need them around, in order for my day to go. Let me say it like that,
I definitely feel that.
yeah, and
That's
and
just
I love like what we were doing. We would always go to Rocky's house for, for dinner, for Thanksgiving, because Rocky seems like the type of person, and I did tell his wife this the other day. I said, how come his dad wasn't like him? I think we would have been so much better if his dad was like him, because I see the side of him that I wished, that his dad was like. That's the man that I thought that I married, the kind of man that I see in Tony and in Rocky. Those are their personalities are what I thought that I married when I married my husband, but I see it in my son.
Well, what can I say?
Look, and Love Bay Rocky has a nice house, so I'm gonna swing by there myself. Together, summertime is starting. So I will be there. Jen, do you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to echo everything that's already been said here. There is a lot of the problems I think that we have with domestic violence, and the things that we keep seeing coming up over and over and over again are because people won't talk about it. People won't say or speak what happened to them. We're told that it is something to be ashamed of, to feel guilty about. And that's just simply not true. And there's so much power in releasing that and in talking about that. And however you feel empowered doing that, whether it's with one person that you trust, a mentor, a pastor, whatever, or whether it's getting on a radio show and speaking about how this has changed your life and shaped who you are.
Wow. So I just want to add, healing doesn't stop. Like, even when you're good, you can get better. When you're better, you can get great. And even if you still have to maintain where you are. Just again, I always give the analogy of a car. You take care of a car. The oil changes and tune-ups, and you got to put gas in it, and make sure the transmission and the engine are good. If it's running fine, that's great, but you have to keep it that way. You have to maintain it. And so, Minister Marks, I want to go back to a point that you made earlier. You said there were some conversations that you've had with your mom. There were some arguments, some discussions. Part of the healing process, there may be some healthy arguments, agreements, some hard conversations, some conflict as you're moving through healing. That's normal. That's stuff that's happened. But it's like at the end of that disagreement, did you come out learning something? Did you come out, you have some new information, or you at least tried to see the other side of that, so healing doesn't stop. And so with that, I think the point that I'm trying to make is that with the progress that you have made in your family, with the progress that you are maintaining, it's not easy.
No, not at all.
There may be some more difficult conversations. You may have to have some issues that may need to be revisited because one person, in a family may need to have a conversation with everybody. That's a normal thing. So I would ask, could you expound on that, a bit more, because anything worth having is worth working at, and you have to work at. And you're talking about a family, so you're talking about different people. You got to consider everybody together. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
So I definitely agree. Even with my other brothers and sisters, when they have disagreements with my mother, they'll call me. I never take sides, first of all. And I just try to talk it out with them and tell them, number one, you have to be patient. And number two, we have to understand we all went through this together. It wasn't more so I experienced more of the abuse than my mother experienced more of the abuse, because honestly, it was me and my mother who experienced more of the abuse than any of them, But I'm the mediator, I'm the mediator. But I also have to be an example. To my brothers and sisters, and not only my brothers and sisters, but to my own children and my nieces and nephews, because we just can't live like that in terms of hating each other or disliking each other, or things like that. I just, I don't want us to live like that. So I have to be the one to get the ball rolling, and have those tough conversations, not only with my mom but also my brothers and sisters. And if they decide they don't want to speak to me for a couple of days, then fine. I mean, but these conversations have to be made, have to be had, and you can see. I mean, my sisters still struggle with some things, but I believe that comes from the root. I believe of that issue is my mother had a difficult relationship with her mom, but my grandmother also had a good relationship with her sons also, and it's the same dynamic with my mom. She has kind of struggled with my sisters, but she has an excellent relationship with my brothers and myself. So like I said, we made significant process from where we were even 5 years ago. All of us, but my sisters still struggle with some stuff. But like I said, I try to be an example, and if they can see I can forgive and move on, hopefully they can take the example and do the same thing.
So can you give maybe what are some practical steps or examples, that another family would see in the same situation? What are some practical things that they could do just to start making steps toward progress in their own families? So like, I know individually, we take accountability
Sure.
for ourselves. We go to counseling, things like that. But when we're talking about together as a family, like, what are some things that we can do? So is it as simple as, let's have a family dinner, everybody come over, and we talk, or do something, we all go to great adventures together, something like that. So what are some practical steps that a family could take?
Well, one of the things that we, like my mom said, my home was always the central gathering point. Everyone would come over for whatever the occasion was, whether it was Thanksgiving, a birthday, things of that nature. So my brothers and sisters and my mom, we would all just meet in that space. And in that space, sometimes things came out, and we would have, conversations. Sometimes those conversations hurt, where some people walked out, but then there were times we had conversations, we all laughing and joking and crying. But for us, that was the first step. Coming together, having a central point to meet, come together and sit down and have these, either it was a tough conversation or times we could just laugh and joke and just be around one another. That really helped us. That was one of the steps that helped us make a lot of progress, especially for my brothers and my mom. That was because we always come together, my brothers and myself, for football games and things of that nature, and we try to incorporate my mom in that those things of that nature also. So that was one of the things we did, was have a central place to meet and talk about some things.
The fun part about us coming together, we have this thing that we talk about past things, but we bust on each other. That's the fun part of all of us coming together. Some families don't know how, some people don't know how to take it when we do that, but that's what we do as a family. Outside people can't do it. They're not allowed to bust. But we got one person that busts. But when we all, it's mainly my son, my daughters, when they would come around, they would just sit and watch. But then me and my sons, we would all start saying different things about each other. We still do that, but a lot of people don't understand it. But that's how we connect, by saying things, like Rocky will say something about me and I'll say something about his socks or whatever the case may be. I got tape on my glasses, so he got to bring that. We find things, and that's how we laugh. And and that part we didn't have in the past. when my husband was around.
Mhm.
But we started this, when Peach Street was our home where everybody would come in. It wasn't a hangout. It was a place where everybody felt like it was home.
Mhm.
And wherever my sons were, everybody wanted to gather, because we were like a funny family,
Mhm.
and now that I'm talking about it, I'm thinking now that was a part of our healing. We didn't shut down like everybody thought we were going to do.
Mhm.
I didn't shut down like some people thought that I was going to, that was going to happen to me. I didn't resort to drugs, alcohol, smoking, the things that my side of the family, do, partying. My children, I didn't get into relationships, because those are the things that he always said to me. Those negative things, my husband always said, if anything happened to him, this is what I'm going to do. But that never happened. My children were my main focus. So like I said, with us coming together, no matter where Rocky would move, he was all the way in Alany. We went down there, and we gathered. So it's like his house was always the center place where we all, met up at, because we knew we were going to have fun. So I just hope that we don't stop doing that. We just can continue on doing that, just to keep us, together and to keep us progressing and not to be able to go back to where we were.
Yeah, that is awesome. I want to make one point, and then Jen, I'll ask you for a question or a comment. And the point that I wanted to make is that we full well understand that in some instances, families are not going to come together and just gel or just make the decision to sit and just work it through. Sometimes distance is needed. Sometimes you may be able to sit with family and you have to put a time limit on it. I can give you a good 15, 20 minutes. And then for my own health, for my own peace of mind, I have to get up and go. So I want to acknowledge that there are different points in the spectrum. But I think the point is that we all need to, within our own families and our individual selves, need to recognize where you are, recognize what you need to do for you, what works for you and your family, and then you move from there. Because one answer is not going to fix everything and everybody. So, I wanted to point that out. We do full well understand that sometimes coming together is not even an option, even if you wanted to do that. And sometimes you have to move forward without answers, without conversations, without closure that you may full well deserve. But in some cases, we're not going to get it. But it is beautiful when you are able to come together and have conversations, and, and be able to sit and to have fun and to talk. Jen, do you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, earlier we were, Minister Marks, you were talking about when your daughter was born, you really became aware of the changes that you needed to make. And first of all, I just want to kind of say how different it is or rare it is to kind of see yourself moving down a path and realize that you need to turn the other way, and just be able to do it. It's fantastic. But ultimately, and this, obviously, you are breaking generational bondage and generational trauma. What would you say to somebody who just doesn't even know where to start with that? What, or even how to recognize that?
Wow. I always believe that each of our experiences are different, but some things are similar. I believe just for me, just knowing how much I prayed and asked God for a daughter, and that's what He gave me, kind of helped me see Him differently and just trust Him, trust God a little bit more. And it just wasn't just for the fact that, okay, I got a daughter now, but now I had something that I believed in, because I knew God, but I didn't know him when my daughter was born. Like, wow, he really heard me and he answered my prayer. So he must love me, and he must love me if he kept me alive this long. As many times as I tried to take myself out, he loved me. But just for me, my starting point was just the reality that I wanted to change, because even though I had 2 sons, this was what I really, prayed for, was a daughter, and he gave that to me, and I didn't want her to experience I experienced, and I want her to treat her
So, Minister, volume went out. We can't hear you, but I full well understand the remark and comment that he was making, and I also think that it's different, because normally men pray for sons; they want the boys.
Yeah.
But I think that's absolutely beautiful. As you're coming back, Mr. Marks, I was just saying, I understood the meaning and thoughtfulness behind, the sentiment of what you were saying. As both of you are active in ministry, very, very active, I do want to give you both a moment to talk about any future plans that you have coming up, any projects that you're working on.
You want to start, Celeste?
You know what? It's like pulling teeth with this boy, this man, my son. It's like pulling teeth with him, because I, really want him to move forward with his calling and opening up, I don't want to say his church, but, a place of worship where he can bring people, together and, and do what God called him to do. I try to connect him with different people, as many people as possible. I know I get on his nerves with that, because he know I don't move slow. He know that once you say you're going to do something, he know I'm on it, so I'm like, waiting for him to get started, with that. And what I'm doing, I want to do that, the women's event again in September.
Okay.
With the this time a brunch, and not have it at the church. I'm going to just do what God is telling me to do. He don't want me inside the 4 walls. He want me outside. And also I'm going to work to help him to do a vending day in July, so we can raise money to be able to help him, with his ministry and everything. So but the main thing that I'm working on now is to do the other, the second part of the women's event. Yeah. Plus I'm in school, I'll be finishing in December,
Awesome. So, Minister Marks.
So Minister May, when she says she's in school, she goes to school, but I do the assignments. Okay. I want y'all to know that.
There you go.
I want y'all to know that. So when she gets that degree, it's gonna have both our names on it. Okay. She just goes sits in class. That's all she does. I do the rest. No, but like my mother said, the Lord has laid on my heart to plant a church, and I'm working through some things. I have my own insecurities that I need to work through. I'm still going through a healing process that I'm also working through. I did want to call you yesterday, Minister May, because I heard some news and it really just broke my heart of some things that I experienced previously at another ministry, and I just didn't know what to do with it in terms of how much it hurt my heart, the news that I got. But this is what the Lord is laying on my heart to do, is to plant a church. And that's what we're working on. But I'm also in the healing process, and I'm working on my own insecurities in regards to, having confidence to step out and do what the Lord called me to do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I want to encourage you both to keep going forward and what He has called you to do. Just make sure He's the one laying out the plans, and you
That's right.
Just let me know. Are you going Baptist or non-denomination? I need to know.
Non-denominational, baby girl.
Amen. 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 Amen.
I can lead a role.
Amen.
You ain't got to learn them 18 articles of faith. But I'm gonna leave that alone. That's for another conversation on another Friday evening.
Oh my goodness! But I thank you both so much for being here. Did baby girl graduate from high school yet?
And girl, let me tell you, she got up there. She had them people jumping and shouting. She gave a whole sermon in 4 minutes. It was good. Yep, but she did graduate, and Justin graduated also.
Awesome. All right, I gotta cash app you for the kids.
Okay. They don't like that.
Truly, thank you both for being here. I really do. And Love Bay, I just want to say we truly understand, not just individually, but families are in a different place. Everybody is in a different place, but it is possible for you to move forward together in your healing process. Everybody has to do some work individually, but it is possible for families to come together and to get through it. Everybody's dealing with something different. Some of us still have the abusers alive in our families and have to learn how to deal with it as we're progressing on. Again, some of us are operating without closure that we need, without apologies. You got to move forward. You stop waiting to hear I'm sorry, because in some cases it's just not going to happen. But we just truly just want to encourage everyone. And we also know that there are different dynamics in families when you're dealing with different cultures and you're dealing with different religions. There's so much that plays a part when we're dealing with families, and then we're suffering individually, or collectively together within those families. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There is progress that can be made, but you just have to start somewhere. And even if you're the first one, or even if you're the only one to make a decision, this is going to be different. I'm going to be different. Then you do that. And we just want to encourage you to move forward, keep going forward. It can get done. Don't know how long it will take. It will take some effort. It will be hard, and it will hurt. Healing does not feel good. Healing is not easy, but it can be done if you take the steps and you move forward and to do. Jen, do you have a comment for our listeners on tonight?
I mean, you really said it all, but I will echo everything that you said, and just say that, ultimately, wherever you're coming from, whoever you are, you matter, people matter. People will always matter more than institutions. And so, you deserve to be happy, healthy, and loved. And yeah, it's as simple as that. It doesn't need to be more complicated. And, the only other thing that I will echo that you said, Tia, is that each of us has work to do individually, and that's important. Everybody's got to own their own stuff. And when you do that, when you come to the table honestly and openly, that is where healing starts to happen.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Love Bay, I promise you that Minister Marks will be back, because I was supposed to ask you about the drums and that Jerry curl, but it slipped my mind. When we come back, we will talk about it. Love Bay, if you want to catch up on previous episodes from the program on our YouTube channel, you can visit Suffering in Silence DV, which is our YouTube channel. Thank you for joining Suffering in Silence with Minister Tia on Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. We're here with you every Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. Love Bay family, we are continuing to rise out of the ashes together. Everyone, please have a good evening. Thank
You too. God bless. See you, Ryan.